to restore the human dignity of manual scavengers and their rights, and also bestow them with their rehabilitation. The legislation makes it a crime to hire employees to clean insanitary latrines as manual scavengers, to hire employees to clean septic tanks and sewers without protective or safety equipments, to create insanitary latrines, and not to demolish or modify insanitary latrines over a certain time frame of this act coming to effect. So now in India, manual scavenging is a punishable it's act. Offense. And manual scavenging in India, we should look into a history of work in short. So manual scavenging has always been linked to the need for personal hygiene across human societies worldwide. The very use of toilets played a key role in emergence of development of this practice. So there are many perspectives by scholars about the history of manual scavenging in India. Some says that the Mughal kings in India by 1900 established toilets, and which will start to help to start this work manual scavenging in India. And also some other war captives, they are regarded as inferior, were compelled to this work as a form of punishment, and were segregated from other communities, eventually being labeled as untouchables. So, and other also, the origins of manual scavenging can be traced back to ancient India, with evidence from the Harappan civilization showing waterborne toilets connected by drains. So these are the different theories, and the colonial period, we can say that it's a crucial or the critical point in the history of sanitation in India. And the establishment of Public Health Commission in 1859 and the creation of sanitary boards in provinces were reactionary measures driven by concerns for the health of British troops rather than a broader commitment to public health for all. And municipal reforms during the late 19th and early 20th centuries introduced local self-governance, allowing municipalities to collect taxes for the sanitation services. However, these reforms were often spurred by epidemics, fires, or like other crises that posed a direct threat to middle class and colonial interest. And the role of the coming to Kerala. And also after independence, India, sanitation became a key issue for the newly formed government. The focus was on improving public health and eradicating diseases that had plagued the country during the colonial period. And coming to Kerala, from mid-19th, epidemics such as plague and cholera adversely affected Travancore's health sector. And prior to this period, the public sanitation sector was not given much importance. Apart from cleaning the roads, no other cleaning works was carried out. Sanitary Commission was established in 1895 with the aim of controlling epidemics. Subsequently, public health activities and vaccine distribution as part of pandemic control were given to the priority, and urban activities were codified through the sanitation conservancies. So by the late 19th century, the government recognized the need for a more organized approach to sanitation. And in 1886, conservancy system extended to towns like Kottayam, Alleppey, Koilon, etc. And also government established a standing committee to manage this sanitation. So this is the short history of sanitation, which and the establishment of this sanitation department and implementation of public health measures contributed to the state's overall development and urbanization. On the other hand, the social exclusion of sanitation work, particularly manual scavengers, remained a persistent issue. So how? Manual in Kerala, basically the manual scavengers, there are people from Dalit communities like Paraya communities. They were doing the cleaning, the scavenging work in Kerala. And also some other migrant workers like Arundhadiyar and Chakliyar communities from other Tamil Nadu and all. And the manual scavenging in Kerala has its roots in the urban landscape, emerging emerging as an occupation when municipalities were established. But we can say that this choice of work was heavily, sometimes influenced by the caste system, with the individuals from marginalized communities often being the ones hired for these roles. And in Kerala, the term Thoti used to describe manual scavengers is derived from their work rather than their caste affiliation, as they belong to various Dalit groups, each with its own unique identity. The exact origin and meaning of Thoti are somewhat ambiguous, with no single explanation widely accepted. So, in Tamil Nadu, we should look the caste representation of these manual scavengers in Kerala, Arundhadiyar or Chakliyar or Thotis. In Tamil Nadu, Dalit communities are divided in several subcastes, including the Parayas, Pallas, and Arundhadiyars. And Arundhadiyar are involved in manual scavenging, leather work, and other, considered as menial job, making them most socio-economically and disadvantaged among the Dalits. So Arundhadiyars, along with, in Kerala, they are they are known as Arundhadiyars or Chakliyars and other subcastes. Okay, the time is running out. So I am trying to present here like in Kerala's the manual scavengers history of resistance in the context of Kerala. This is all other was like a background. So in Kerala, we can see the history or the narratives of the movements conducted by the manual scavengers in Kerala. We can't see anywhere. There are little writings there and here. And early mobilizations and resistance, manual scavengers in Kerala began organizing themselves against exploitative working conditions in the early decades of 20th century. This was particularly evident in urban centers like Trivandrum, Alappuzha, and Kozhikode, where municipalities relied heavily on migrant scavengers from Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh. One of the earliest recorded resistance came from scavenger leaders like Karimadam Pachi. We can't see these names in the mainstream history writing. Vettugathi Chuppayan and all, and the leader was Jubba Ramakrishnan, and also the name M.M. Lawrence and all. The leaders, despite the absence of formal union structures, mobilized workers through informal networks, urging them to demand fair wages and humane working conditions. Their efforts often resulted in retaliation from municipal authorities, who viewed such movements as a threat to the established social order. So a significant moment in scavenger activism occurred in 1946 when a 2 weeks long strike in Kozhikode led by Thoti Karunan. He was a Thoti, the manual scavenger, brought the city to a standstill. And refusing to work under exploitative conditions, the scavengers' collective action forced municipal authorities to acknowledge their role in urban sanitation. However, the response was far from progressive, like several workers were dismissed, and the leaders were targeted for instigating labor unrest. Similar strike took place in Trivandrum, Thrissur and Alappuzha, but each faced several repression. In many cases, municipal authorities forced workers to sign apology letters to retain their jobs. All these have the archival evidence in our government archival offices. So, and the political and institutional, we can go to the next section, the political and institutional neglect, how it works. While leaders like Dakshayani Velayudan raised concern in the Cochin Legislative Council in 1945, highlighting issues such as wage disparities, housing shortages, and caste-based discrimination, this discussion rarely translated into concrete political, policy changes. Government officials largely ignored scavengers' grievances, treating sanitation work as a public necessity rather than a labor issue requiring reform. Archival records from 1949 reveal that authorities viewed scavenger movements with suspicion, often labeling them as communist conspiracies rather than legitimate labor struggles. This is evident in official correspondence where municipal officers and police reports describe workers' strikes are threat to public order rather than the demand for justice. The government's primary concern remained ensuring uninterrupted sanitation services rather than addressing the rights and dignity of workers who provided them. And even organizations that claim to advocate for Dalits' rights were hesitant to fully support scavenger movements. A letter from Babu Ramanujadas, a leader of the Harijan Sevak Sangh, explicitly discouraged scavenger strike, framing them as disruption instigated by external agitators. This paternalistic approach reflected the broader caste hierarchy even within Dalit movements, where scavengers, despite being Dalit themselves, were often left out the organized struggles. So, historical struggles of manual scavengers in Kerala highlight the deep intersection of caste labor and urban exclusion, while their resistance forced authorities to acknowledge their contributions. The occupational stigma attached to scavenging remain largely unchallenged. Unlike other marginalized communities that found some degree of political representation, and mobility, scavengers concluded to be confined to the periphery of urban life. Even as municipal sanitation system evolved, scavengers were not integrated into permanent employment structure. Instead, they were kept as contract laborers with minimal rights, a practice that persists in many urban centers today. The invisibility of their contributions, both in historical narratives and contemporary policy discussions, demonstrate how caste and occupation continue to shape labor hierarchies in Kerala's urban spaces. It underscores the need to recognize sanitation workers not as passive victims of caste oppression, but as active agents who resisted their exploitation despite immense social and institutional barriers. So many are from manual scavengers forced to clean toilet pits illegally even now, often without any safety measures, risking their lives in hazardous environment. The lack of proper political organization further aggravate their marginalization, as they have no collective platform to voice their demands or fight for their rights. Tragically, it is only in the aftermath of fatal incidents, like we know the Joy, the sanitation worker who lost his life in a polluted river when he tried to clean the river. So such as workers losing their lives while cleaning manholes or waste pits, that their plight momentarily gains public and government attention. So what remains absent is a sustained and structured policy interventions aimed at ensuring their safety, dignity, and long-term socio-economic upliftment. Despite legal frameworks prohibiting manual scavenging, Its persistence highlights the failure of both policy implementation and institutional accountability. Without a committed effort to enforce existing laws, rehabilitate affected workers, and create alternative employment opportunities, their exclusion will continue. Meaningful change requires a comprehensive approach that includes strong policy interventions, enforcement mechanisms, and active participation of marginalized communities in decision-making processes. However, such steps remain largely unfulfilled, leaving manual scavengers trapped in a cycle of invisibility and oppression. So this is it. Stopping here.
Thank you so much, Shanti. Now I invite Dr. Kabeer KT to present his work. Internal Migrant Workers in Kerala Social Context, Lessons from the Plywood and Footwear Industries.
Hello. Namaskaram. Respected Chair, other distinguished social scientists on and off dais, and my new friends. Myself, Dr. Kabeer KT, Assistant Professor of Economics, working at presently at Government Arts and Science College, Kundamangalam, Kozhikode. I'm very much delighted to take part in this seminar, especially this technical session titled as Labor, Dignity and Marginality. Of course, I'm going to talk on one of the marginal communities of the state of Kerala, that is, we say internal migrants. We represent them with different terms: internal immigrants, or internal migrants, domestic migrants, or other state migrants, sometimes guest workers, and in layman language it is Bengalis or Hindi people, like that. We address them in different terms. And it was my PhD, not this one, my PhD topic was related to this marginalized community, the quality of work life of these people in small and MSMEs. So once I visited different places to study about these people, especially in Plywood and footwear clusters of our state, in Ernakulam, Kozhikode and all. And I came across various determinants or factors determining the quality work life of these internal immigrants. And of course, I came across lots of social issues that they face. Then I again searched how they are living and what is their perception regarding the life in the state and how we perceive them, whether they are whether we treat them as second citizens or whether they feel as if they are second citizens, like that. So this was my interest, and I made a paper on this, but it is somewhat large. With my time is delimited here, so I can't discuss all the things over here. And once we talk about these internal migrants, we'll be able to see that as per the new estimate of State Planning Board, around 31 lakhs of internal immigrants are here in our state. They're coming around 23.3% of our labor strength or labor workforce. And around 17, out of these 31 lakhs, 17.5 lakhs are there in construction sector, and around 6.3 are there in different MSMEs, and again the remaining are there in service sector, in agriculture sector, in many other sectors. And so I'm going to particularly into my research topic, that is what I'm going to do is that I really analyzed these two objectives. See, mainly I tried to make an insight into the social life of these internal migrants by keeping in mind these two particular questions. What is the condition of social lives of these internal migrants in Kerala, and how was the social life of these internal migrant laborers, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic? Because I was conducting my survey in the year 2021-22 like that. So I came across lots of issues related to COVID-19 pandemic and all. And with regard to the methodology of my study, the empirical analysis of the study is based on primary data, and I collected data from Plywood industrial cluster from Ernakulam district and Footwear industrial cluster from Kozhikode district. I selected these two clusters because they represent or they accommodate a greater number of internal migrants, and around 450 samples have taken, and 225 each from this Ernakulam cluster, especially from this Plywood cluster, and again 225 from Footwear cluster from Kozhikode district are taken for my study as sample, and a certified random sampling technique was used to select sufficient number of samples from these industries and all. And I used a structured interview schedule to administer and administered this schedule in the year 2022. And the question regarding the social life and work life of these migrants were asked in the interview, and the responses were recorded in a 3-point Likert scale. For present study, I've taken mainly 13 dimensions of social living that were identified from different literature and all. And I mainly concentrate on all these 13 dimensions like this. See, I've tabulated the scores, and we'll be looking into the only total score. I have differentiated what is there, what is happening there in plywood industry and footwear industry and all. Of course, footwear industry is doing good because their work environment is somewhat good compared to plywood industry, and the job is more or less consistent in footwear industry and all. And again, the industry is providing extra benefit and all for these people. So in all our scope, the footwear industry excel. And here I'm going to concentrate the total score, and I'm going to just make an analysis whether these people or how these people are living in our society by looking into certain dimensions. I didn't take all the dimensions. I've taken around 13 dimensions and all, and we'll see those things. And the first one is migrants mingling with natives. So in such case, I got only 12.4%. The numbers in brackets are percentage, and outside the bracket is actual number out of 450, and numbers in the brackets are percentage. So we'll look into the percentage. With regard to the first case, around 12.4% of people are telling that these migrants are mingling with the natives. And once we come to the second question, whether native people interact with these migrants positively. So I got around 24 percent of people or migrants have replied that these local people are positively interacting with them. And the third dimension is migrants feel as if they are second citizens here in Kerala. So around 13% of people felt like that, and majority of them feel, or sometimes, or often they feel that they feel as if they are second citizens in the state. And migrants are familiar with the immediate surrounding, where they live. That also was an important thing. So I got that around 31% people are aware of their social surrounding and all. There also the answer is what around 53% of people are what always in confusion. They are often familiar with their surroundings. And migrants feel language as a barrier. Many of them feel like that. See, I got around 72% of people, they felt sometimes that language has come as a barrier for them, and around around 7.73% of domestic migrants replied that language has become a problem for them. And see, next one is migrants have good social relation at workplace. In the workplace, I analyzed whether they are mingling with their friends and with their management and all. And there, of course, somewhat they have a good relation, and around 44% of people have told that they have somewhat good relation over there. And migrants have good relation with the native workers working in the same firm. In the firms, we have workers from our state also. So I asked whether these workers, the native workers are positively interacting with you and all. So they are somewhat happy. These people are interacting them positively. And again, another one was whether migrant observing the news related to Kerala. So only a few are observing the news related to Kerala, and sometimes it is it is 87.8% of migrants told me that sometimes they observe. And with regard to some other dimension like this, migrants aware of government programs for them. Only few are aware of government programs. Government has brought them insurance scheme and many other schemes, but only a few are aware of all those programs. And migrants get help with government intervention. There also, it comes like this. Only 10% of people have replied that positively. And migrants aware of social media hype, especially during COVID-19 pandemic and all. There were loads of social media harassment against these people, and they all they were aware of all those problems. And again, it is recorded that 56% of them were in confusion, or there were some sort of confusion with regard to all these social media hype regarding all these news and all. Next one is there is hurdle for migrants in obtaining accommodation. Accommodation is another problem, especially in plywood industry. In footwear industry, many of the firms are providing at least good accommodation for these migrants, but in in plywood firms, the condition is very pathetic. And see, still the accommodation is a problem. Around 30% of people have always facing the problem of accommodation. And the last one is migrants satisfied by the present accommodation. There also answer is not that much good data is there. And again, it's another type of question that also I included. And migrants are supposed to register in police station. See, it is a direction from the police station, and especially to MSMEs, especially to these industries, that their workers have to be registered in police station. So I asked, this was another inquiry, whether internal migrants registered in the police station and all. Only 33% of people have registered, and that too from footwear industry, many of them have registered. But this has come as a problem for them also, that I will discuss you later. And again, internal migrant workers registered in the AVA scheme. AVA scheme is an insurance scheme for these internal migrants, once they get accident, all around 2 lakhs will be provided by Kerala government, and only a few of them are aware of this insurance and all. And I also analyzed the social life, especially during COVID-19 pandemic, and there are lots of tables. I didn't include all those things because of time limit, and I will give you a few things with regard to all those things. The data from the field survey revealed that only 8.8% of migrants reported feeling panic due to the uncertainty during the pandemic, while the majority of them were not that much panicked despite the challenging circumstances. That was an interesting finding with regard to this. With regard to COVID-19 pandemic. Only a few were panic. At the beginning there were problems, but later, due to government intervention and intervention by local government and health personalities and all, made the thing easy, and only a few of them were panic. And this I found from my survey, especially from these plywood and footwear industries, but sometimes may not be that much correct in the case of these construction workers, because they are not much organized. And additionally, the survey indicates that the families of internal migrants were also relatively calm, as the family felt that the family members were safe in Kerala during the pandemic. And again, by analyzing the survey data, it was found that income of the internal migrants have decreased drastically during this COVID-19 pandemic, and at the same time, the health concern of the migrant workers in the manufacturing units of the state were not that much serious as it was observed in the other states of India. And these findings are attributed to the effective intervention by the government of Kerala and civil society organization which provide relief and other supportive measures during the pandemic and all. We are familiar with common kitchen and all, Samuhya Atakala, common kitchen and all, we are familiar with that, so that they got some sort of relief. And as conclusion, I can give this much points for time being. The paper empirically analyzed the social life of migrant workers in Kerala by examining background literature and field data. Although Kerala adopts a pro-poor and pro-migrant stance, implementing various schemes and programs, data reveal that most migrants do not benefit from these efforts. Migrant laborers in Kerala face significant challenges, including poor accommodation, inadequate health and sanitation facilities, and language barriers, leading to feeling of alienation and neglect. Despite government and agency effort to promote social inclusion, issues such as social discrimination, isolation, and insufficient integration into mainstream society still persist in our state. And the practices like police surveillance and compulsory registration further erode the dignity and self-esteem of these migrant workers, contributing to structural violence in their daily lives. And the COVID-19 pandemic highlighted the complex relationship between Kerala and its migrant workforce. Although many workers initially left the state during the first lockdown, they returned soon after. They started returning soon after, and it underscores their reliance on Kerala for better work conditions. And again, to maintain and strengthen its economic growth, Kerala's economic growth, Kerala must adopt a more inclusive and welcoming approach toward these workers, ensuring their integration and well-being as they are vital to the state's economic trajectory. So it's actually the need of a state, not the need, actually it's not the need of these migrants. They can go in many other places. They can go to Madras, they can go to Chennai, they can go to Bangalore, they can go to Mumbai and all. But we need them. So we should make sure that they are here. For that one, for that purpose, we should integrate them, and we should not compare with other states. Let them do whatever they want, but we should consider them as if that they are our citizens and they have all the rights, dignity, and all the things. Thank you. Once again, thank you for inviting me to talk.
Thank you. The presentations gave us insightful food for thought, and also I think we can take the discussion forward, centered on the theme. And as opening comments, I'd like to sum up, it also highlights the talk about two marginalized categories of workers in Kerala, a state again with a very long history of working class struggles. So we'll also have to engage with the question of what does the institutionalized trade unions in Kerala have done with regard to representing the grievance of these categories of workers that the papers were trying to talk about, be that in the context of the sanitation workers or quote unquote manual scavenging workers, as well as in the case of the migrant workers. So is there a native migrant sort of divide happening? And also gives us questions about the category of class. What happens to class when you take identity outside of that entirely, right? You know, the way in which you can use it as a collectivizing or a solidarity building identity category or a collective identity building apparatus. If class is class necessary, or, you know, can you think beyond class in terms of integrating these grievances, which also talks about caste and other factors? Questions of nativity, etc. So without much delay, I'd like to hand over the mic to the experts to give comments on the presentations before opening the floor. So I request Professor Raju, Professor Deshpande and Professor Sanal Mohan sir to respond to the presentations and give them comments.
ഒരു അനൗൺസ്മെൻ്റ് ഉണ്ട്. KL23U2517 എന്ന് പറയുന്ന സ്കൂട്ടർ ഗ്രൗണ്ടിൽ നിന്ന് എത്രയും പെട്ടെന്ന് മാറ്റേണ്ടതാണ്. KL23U2517 എന്ന സ്കൂട്ടർ എത്രയും പെട്ടെന്ന് തന്നെ ഗ്രൗണ്ടിൽ നിന്ന് മാറ്റണം.
Shanti, the first question is to Shanti. You said they are invisible. In which way they are invisible? Because there are enough archival material and government documents and unionization, etc. before they ceased to exist in Kerala. So in which way you may have some idea about the invisibility factor? I didn't understand in which way they were invisible first. Then were they really passive in responding to the social circumstances that were prevalent in Kerala? These two questions are to Shanti. To Kabeer, I would like to say that your empirical data is fine, but I was wondering what about their collectivity? As migrants, Bengalis, Hindi speaking, in terms of language, in terms of the origin of the state, they may have some collectivity, no? You might have studied that, but you didn't present it here. These two questions I have.
Thank you to both presenters. For Santhi, the question I had, not so much a question, but well, I suppose a question. And this applies to the others who presented on manual scavenging in the previous session as well. I think perhaps it may be useful, in addition to exclusion, to think of it as a kind of forced adverse inclusion, because you are not allowed to stop doing it. This scavenging, you are not allowed to stop. So many of the so-called menial jobs are like that, the graveyard jobs, and so on. You are not allowed to stop, and you are very vital for the functioning of society. So it is also a forced inclusion on adverse terms. So if you think of it like that, that may also be a complementary focus. Yes, at one level it is exclusion, but at another level they are not even free in the Marxian sense of, free from feudal constraint or whatever, Also, maybe if there is, you suggested that there is not enough historical work on this kind of occupational group, and therefore an initial straight history is needed, and that's what you are providing. Once you have, and that is important, once you have provided that, you must try to think of larger questions that this raises for historiography, for social theory, and so on, because you have very rich material for this. But thank you for the presentation. For Kabeer, several small points. You are essentially talking about interstate migrants. So the title internal migrants is a little misleading. Better to call them interstate. Then it is very clear right from the beginning. And I was curious to know that to see that you did a stratified random sample. What did you use as a sampling frame? Because I can't think of an obvious sampling frame for migrant workers, unless Kerala again is the great exception that has some kind of sampling frame. So I'm curious about that. A 3-point Likert scale, as you know, is a limitation, right? So on the other hand, it has advantages because you can do things quickly and so on. It would be a very good idea, unless you have done it already, to supplement this quantitative work. I think that's what Professor was also pointing to, with case studies, right? So you take your statistically large values, modal values, and you look for cases that illustrate those particular values, and then talk to these people and have a more qualitative account to complement your, thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. It was really nice to listen to the two presentations. So thank you for your papers. And I have a few questions to Santhi. I hope you hold an MA in history. Am I right or wrong? Do you hold an MA in history? Really? You should be very careful about your history. Because I think I heard you saying that Mughal kings in 1900 or something like that. Mughal kings, did you refer to? And which period? Don't give me an answer, you reflect on that. So these are very blatant mistakes you cannot commit as you hold a history MA, right? Be careful with that. And be very specific about much of your history part. When you write about this, in fact, you can leave out those things if you are not very comfortable with all those histories. But the moment you stick to history, I demand as a teacher of history, proper kind of history. You have to be very careful with historical facts, although we began with alternative facts. But this cannot be admitted. All right. So, having said this, and also I have other kinds of suggestions, like, probably for want of time, you could not look at your memory of the marginalized labor. But these are two different projects, as I guess from the title. See, you gave, probably I think that is something which Professor Satheesh Deshpande, observed in the morning. As you have a short time for presentation, 20 minutes or 15 minutes, you should really come up with your most important kind of stuff in your presentation. So therefore what has happened here is that you left out your important stuff, and I was just wondering where, at what point, etc., this memory of the marginalized labor come in. You may want to think about that. I'm not discouraging you because you have done the work and you are the expert in this field, right? But that expertise did not come out when you present it. So you may want to think about that. If that sort of stuff is done, then you have really good stuff to talk about. And from what you said, I think you have in your mind a kind of comparison. You mentioned Calicut in the north, Alappuzha, then Trivandrum, and you mentioned Kottayam and so on. So what sort of commonality you find in the sort of, the city cleaning underclass, or those people who were engaged in town cleaning in all these places? Was it in terms of caste, etc.? But you also interestingly said a very valuable point, I guess, the intersectionality of that. But perhaps that's the kind of stuff that should come up as the prominent thing in your, the paper. Is it part of your PhD or is it an independent paper? PhD. So you have time to do that. So therefore, I guess these are the positive ways in which you have to reorient yourself. And I cannot compromise on your history stuff, so you have to be very, very careful with that. Then, so you mentioned at some point archival evidences. So I'm curious to know, as a researcher in history, how do you deal with these archives? So at least you gave two examples. One is that municipal orders or all the other kinds of stuff that will pass off as an archival thing, police reports and so on. So are you referring to the kind of official materials that form the archive related to these communities? In that case, the question which Professor Raju asked, how does this invisible stuff, in terms of what? So you need to, there is invisibility, as we all know there, but you really need to, really plow your archival materials in such a way that you come out with some interesting kind of interpretation there. Because this archival stuff, as far as a historian is concerned, is not innocent. We are not just using archives to give some citations and all that. Then, the examiner will say that this is a great stuff. So we have, history as a discipline has moved beyond that. I invite your attention to the debates on the archive itself. So that's the point where you really add value to your research. So this is my suggestion. So to remain polite in the morning, I said my request to researchers. But in your case, I have absolutely no request. This is my command. You have to do that because you hold a MA in history and you cannot take things very lightly. You should know how historians deal with the archives. Now there are many things and it is too much from my side. Probably we can have a private conversation also. And now the other things to Dr. Kabeer, for want of time, I'm not going into the details of that. I think the last sentence with which you ended is the most important thing. You referred in passing to the citizenship rights of the migrants who come to Kerala to do these jobs, and you said that, we need them, we retain them, etc. That is from our side. Think of them as citizens of this goddamn country, India. So they need to live as decent people. Why do they want to go and register in a police station? I worked in Calcutta for 3 years in a research institute. Nobody asked me to go to any police station in Calcutta and register. I was in fact a kind of migrant. The difference is that I am a researcher working in a research institute. Why do we want to ask a plywood worker to do this stuff? So I, in fact, heard from my friend historian Arup Jyoti Saikia saying that one of those guys who was implicated or identified as a murderer in one of those murder cases in Kerala actually came from his native village. And Arup once asked me, how is the condition of migrant laborers in Kerala? So I said things are pretty much bad, but the kind of idea that they have about Kerala is very different. Crimes happen everywhere. Not just all Malayalis are pious people going to mosques, churches, and temples every day. That nonsense should not be there. So if when we move to cities, if we are not asked to go and register in a police station, why would a worker be asked to do this? It is not just for the kind of welfare doles that the government is giving. I used to tell my friends, very close friends, that is my people at home, that you see Bengalis only in Columbia and other places. I have seen Bengalis in research institutions, Columbia, Cambridge and all that. The guys who come here to work, they are not even thought of as Bengalis in Calcutta. I think I am very much right about this because I have interacted with Bengalis enough to make this claim. So therefore, the idea is the kind of class system which is there. So we need to really think about this. Only then you have this whole idea of social life. Because what kind of social life do they have in North Bengal? So ask this sort of questions. And I think I forgot the researcher's name, one of those CDS researchers who traveled to the original villages of this, Maitri Prasad. So we have similar kinds of studies, and then you think about how, I don't know, you must have seen these studies as well. So the questions are so, big, that's what. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the presentation. It's very interesting to listen both of you. Am I audible? I specifically want to give kind of comments on the Kabeer sir's presentation. It's about, as a field of, as a discipline of economics, it's a very, I feel it's very interesting paper, and you making causal relationship between these things, how migrant people come here and what kind of benefit they get. I just want to bring your attention on what's the role of state we can look here particularly, because the Kerala is a state where here workers looks differently to the state's perspective, and the state have always some kind of we can say provisions for the workers differently. Like for example, there is an ORCA for the international migration and all. So what about this interstate migration? We can look it into that way, and as sir said, their collective bargaining approach to this kind of thing. So what the state can play the role, or I would say is that we can say about the Kerala development model, the so-called what is there, it's failed to address this question. Is it like that? So is that possible to make your paper in that, bringing this kind of things in your paper? Yeah. Okay, thank you so much.
We are actually running late, so I asked people to be precise on their questions.
I just had a simple question as somebody from a non-social science background, and given that the sample size, Dr. Kabeer, was 450, I was just wondering if you could comment on how did you navigate the insider-outsider position and the gatekeeper access with respect to language barriers, especially in the internal migration scenario. Insider-outsider position and gatekeeper access.
Kabeer sir, you concluded that Kerala needs them, as Sanal sir said it, that we have a history background of empowerment, upliftment, class upliftment in our state, that workers also somehow enjoy the privilege of the social status, because regularly in news channels we see that the other state workers are getting married from Kerala, their students are studying in our schools, getting high marks. So our upliftment history or practice of somehow equal treating everybody are also welcoming them. Kerala is also their need for a good status standard of living. I felt like that.
Any more questions?
Thank you for the comments and suggestions. And invisibility, like, you can't see them in mainstream, roles in, the main roles in the society. Like, for instance, we can't see them in a political, as a political leader or something like that. And also we are saying like they are from 30 colonies, still 30 colonies. They are rehabilitated, and they got, the government has housing projects for them, for like in the different regions, other than the slums. But still, we are calling that place as 30 colonies or the slums like that. So, and also they have history of this resistance and all. But now if you are asked them, do you know this resistance has happened in Kerala? But they don't know. And they said like, yeah, we are having a, the organization soon. So they don't have a political organization or social organization sometimes. And also the invisibility is like in a mainstream society, I can be here like this. But they are still, their new generation still doing this sanitation work and all. Their identity is always belong to this sanitation work. So why they can't, come up with from that identity? That's the question actually, and that's the invisibility I have.
The interaction session was very nice. It was just like a PhD viva. For PhD viva, we used to get only one expert. Here we have a bunch of experts have given wonderful, inciting questions, and again, certain thought-provoking aspects which are needed to be included. And let me comment on the first question that was with regard to connectivity. And actually I have added many things, and I have quoted many social science theories and all in my paper, but simply delimited here because we don't have time to discuss all those things here. So I have analyzed push and pull factors, how they lived there, what they worked over there, how they worked over there, why did they come here, actually what is pushed them, what was the pull, and the work life, the economic life, their health profile, education, everything I've analyzed. And but here I couldn't but bring all those things together, and that was the thing. And their social life also has had many other dimensions that also I skipped here with regard to their community living and all. There were questions and all, and that was the thing. And again, next time I will try. I will be here in this topic, and once I go for further studies, definitely I can include all those things. And again, with regard to the term interstate migrant, so in literature there are different terms. In the Gulati Institute has talked about domestic migrants. Irdaya Rajan sir is always talking about internal in-migrants. In many other literature, it is interstate migrants. So I have used all these, and the government is using guest workers, and no other state worker, and only guest workers. Aditi Thozhilaligal. So there are, still there should be certain discussion on that area. And again, with regard to police surveillance and all, it's a problem, actually a problem. There are lots of studies done by Maitri Prasad and all, those police surveillance and their problem and all. It's actually a problem. All we are Indian citizens. Why should be there? Because our social media and again mass media and all are making lots of hype once a problem occurs. That's the thing. So as a result of that, people organize and people make comments and all, and simply making the situation bad, and these people get panic. That's the thing. So police comes and tell the firms, all migrants, direct all migrants to register in the police station to get their database and all. That's the thing. There are lots of interconnected problems and all, and views with regard to all these things. Okay, I'm going to stop. And again, with regard to role of state is doing a lot. Apnagar is a house property for these internal migrants and Abbas, and again language tutoring system and the schooling system for these internal migrants. Many things are there, but these migrants are not much aware of all these things. That is the thing. Somebody should be there to make them aware of all these facilities. That's the thing. And again, with regard to my sample size, actually it's a 450 is a small size, but we have to limit somewhere. That's the thing. And again, actually I'm an outsider, but we make use of certain connections and starting talking with them, and we elicit. There is no such interview and all. We simply talk to them, and try to get data. In such a way, I dealt with the situation. And again, okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It was such an insightful session where you brought in a lot of engagement with your comments. Thank you so much for the experts as well as the audience for the questions. And thank you so much, Santhi and Dr. Kabeer, for responding to them. So we are coming to the end of this session. Gidanandan Mash is already here. Sorry for making you wait a little. We ran a little over time. So I am formally concluding this session and we are moving on to the next one. Thank you.